Okay, so the start of Eagles free agency has been pretty crazy, and the moves they've made recently have essentially revealed their long-term master plans. As while losing a bunch of players and making smaller signings may not seem ideal, what Howie Roseman is actually doing is pretty freaking smart. So in this video, I'll break down what exactly the Eagles' big plan is and why it could set them up to contend for a very long time. Plus, despite a recent report, trading for Bengals star Trey Hendrickson is likely not part of that plan, so I'll explain why and go into all the other latest Eagles news starting right now. Despite what many may call an underwhelming start to NFL free agency, the Eagles' offseason plan is well underway and it's being executed perfectly. As sure, they may have already lost a bunch of guys, and I'll admit, it hurts seeing many of them go. I mean, guys like Josh Sweat, Milton Williams, and Kenneth Gainwell were drafted here and all became really good, solid players in their time in Philly. Then you have Darius Slay, who spent 5 years here, was a captain, a Pro Bowler, and now leaves Philly as one of the best Eagles corners of all time. Then you got Isaiah Rodgers, who, despite being a backup and playing just 1 year in Philly, he quickly became a fan favorite. And then, of course, you got probably the most painful one of all in CJ Gardner Johnson, who had the perfect attitude and personality for this city, and he was beloved by fans. So again, seeing all these guys go hurts without question. However, just because it's not exactly fun doesn't make it the wrong course of action. I mean, as I've said countless times at this point, the fact of the matter is the Eagles just couldn't pay everybody, so they had to make some tough decisions. And while these players that the Eagles had to let walk or trade in the case of CJ Gardner Johnson were all good, none of them really fit into the Birds' long-term plans, considering that many of them were on the older side or they weren't the premier player that the Birds had at their given position. And while I'm sure they would have liked to keep these guys around, their priorities rather lie with the younger stars they have in their roster and keeping those guys around for the long term. I mean, think about it. The Eagles have a ton of young talent that they're going to have to pay in the near to distant future, as just this offseason, several of their core players are up for an extension, and priority number one is likely center Cam Jurgens, who in his first year taking over for Jason Kelce made the Pro Bowl and was already instantly one of the best centers in all of football. So you better believe the Eagles want to get him wrapped up ASAP. And then you also have safety Reed Blankenship, who after going undrafted in 2022 has become a very good and important player for this Eagles defense, as he's solid in coverage, he's good against the run, he tackles well, he's a ball hawk, logging 7 picks in the past 2 years, and he's also a great communicator, and he's quickly developed into a leader for this Eagles team, and now will be the leader of the entire secondary with all the vets gone. And reports after the CJ trade suggested that part of it likely had to do with the Eagles wanting to get an extension done with Reed, and CJ even said that himself, so I would expect that to happen soon too. Plus, you also got Jordan Davis, who, despite not putting up flashy numbers, has done a great job filling a very specific role for this Eagles team, being really the key to the Birds' run defense and the anchor of the D-line. So the Eagles may either want to extend him or pick up his 5th-year option before the May 2nd deadline. Plus, you also got linebacker Nakobe Dean to think about, who, with the injury he's dealing with now, I would imagine probably won't get a long-term extension, but still, he's someone that possibly could be in the Birds' long-term plans, depending on the price. But now, real quick, I want to take a moment to talk to you about the sponsor of today's video, Raycon. Now, Raycon's a company that makes wireless earbuds, and these right here, these are my everyday earbuds by Raycon, and I absolutely love them. I mean, for one, these earbuds are super comfortable. Like, other earbuds that I've used start to hurt your ears after a while. These ones don't do that, and they're also not going to fall out of your ears either. I mean, look. Like, they're not falling out. And in addition to that, Raycon's latest model offers a whopping 32 hours of battery life, plus they have a great noise isolation feature to drown out the sounds around you. I mean, I've been wearing these around the house and to the gym, and they work great blocking out the noise.
So I just got done working out. All I can say, these things are pretty great.
Oh, and here's the best part in my opinion. Raycons are just half the price of the other premium wireless earbuds that are out there, and they are just as good. So if you're looking for high quality earbuds that aren't going to break the bank, Raycon is perfect for you. And you can also get 20% off and support the channel by clicking the link down in the description, or go to buyraycon.com/PhillyFan and you'll get 20% off the everyday earbuds. So go do that right now. And again, thank you to Raycon for sponsoring today's video. Now, the crazy part about all the guys that I've mentioned so far is that that's just the guys that are eligible for an extension this offseason, as the real madness starts next offseason when defensive tackle Jalen Carter will be up for an extension, and due to the fact that he's already one of the best defensive linemen in the entire league just 2 years into his career, he's no doubt going to get a huge bag when the time comes. I mean, look at what Milton Williams just got from the Patriots, being the third highest paid defensive tackle in the league at $26 million a year. Like, no disrespect to him, but Jalen Carter is the far better player, and he's going to get paid like it. So I would imagine at least $30 million a year, probably more, and he'll reset the defensive tackle market. So the Eagles definitely need to be preparing for that as early as possible. Plus, they also got to think about somebody like Nolan Smith, who quickly became a very productive player in his second season with 10.5 combined sacks during the regular season and playoffs. And then looking even further into the future, assuming Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean keep up their high-level play, which odds are they will, then the Birds are going to want to pay them too in 2027. So just to reiterate, freeing up future money right now is going to be absolutely crucial, as Howie Roseman and the Birds are going to do everything in their power to keep this core of players together for the long term. And the free agency plans have reflected that, both when it comes to letting guys go and also when it comes to bringing new guys in. I mean, just look at all the guys the Eagles have signed in free agency so far. Like, you can go down the list and they all fit the same mold, starting with their first signing being running back Dillon, who signed a 1-year deal for very, very cheap. And he's a guy who has had a lot of success in this league before and has high potential. However, his stock is very much down after a neck injury kept him out all last season and limited him in 2023. So the Eagles took a flyer on him with a cheap 1-year contract in what is a very low-risk, high-reward move. And again, you can go down the list, as the next guy they signed is Joshua Uche, the pass rusher formerly of the Chiefs and Patriots, who they signed to another 1-year deal. And again, this is another guy who has had success before, particularly putting up 11.5 sacks in 2022. So his potential is very high. However, his stock is down too after he's dealt with injuries, and his play has never reached that 2022 level since or before. So there's another low-risk, high-reward move for you that they're hoping pans out. Continuing on, you have tight end Bryant, who has never really had a lot of success numbers-wise, but he's been able to contribute in different ways, especially as a blocker. So he comes in on a 1-year deal worth up to $2 million, and then you got Adoree Jackson, who signed a 1-year, $2.5 million deal with the Birds yesterday. And once again, you have a guy that has played well in this league before, he has a lot of experience, but it's also no guarantee that he contributes. And now today, the Birds just signed a new long snapper to replace Rick Lovato in former Brown Charley Hughlett to, you guessed it, a cheap 1-year deal worth $1.4 million. So, essentially what you've seen so far with all the Eagles signings is cheap 1-year deals with guys that sure may not be stars, but all have the potential to contribute, some very significantly. And that's just one part of it, because Howie Roseman also said this offseason that part of their plan was to play younger players more. However, they don't just want to hand these young guys big roles, so they've brought in all these cheap free agents on smaller contracts to push the young guys and compete with them a little bit. Oh, and also, the fact that they're all on 1-year deals is very important, because it's yet another thing that shows you that Howie and the Birds are really trying to keep as much money as possible open for the future so they can get their guys signed to long-term extensions. Plus, you also have to realize that this is just one part of the Eagles' master plans, while the NFL draft is another huge part of it, as not only do the Birds have 20 picks total in the next 2 drafts combined, with 8 in the first 5 rounds this year and 12 total next year so far, but they're also attempting to enter this year's draft with no major needs. As Zach Berman put it perfectly, saying, quote, "They're not signing anyone who will definitely start over young players ascending into bigger roles, but they're plugging positions with veterans so they won't go into the draft with a clear hole at a given spot." So that's huge, because what that does is allow you to draft the best available player. And that's how you end up with guys like Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith on your team. So again, the Eagles clearly have a master plan, and that plan is to sign cheap free agents, acquire draft picks, and rely more on younger players. That way, they can ultimately afford to pay their guys that are due extensions and keep this core together for a very long time. And right now, they're executing that plan to perfection. Oh, and by the way, this plan is exactly why the most recent report linking the Eagles to Bengals superstar pass rusher Trey Hendrickson is complete BS. And in case you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm referring to a report from Cam Marino a couple days ago who said the Eagles are, quote, "keeping an eye on the Bengals situation with Trey Hendrickson." Now, the reason this is almost certainly untrue, as I've pretty much said before on this channel, is because a trade for Trey Hendrickson in no way falls into that long-term plan that I just laid out. As not only are the Bengals reportedly looking for a first-round pick and more in exchange for the NFL sack leader, but he's also going to demand a massive extension worth at the very least $30 million per season. And again, if the Eagles are saving up to give their own guys extensions and keep their core together, a trade and extension for Hendrickson would likely make that impossible. So again, I'm telling you guys, it's just not going to happen, and if it did, I'd be absolutely shocked out of my mind. One thing that doesn't really shock me though is the hilarious situation going on in Dallas right now, as in case you missed it, now former Cowboy DeMarcus Lawrence, who spent 11 years with the organization, and Micah Parsons are now beefing on Twitter, as Parsons pretty much called Lawrence a clown after the now Seahawks defensive end said Dallas is his home, but he knows he was never going to win a Super Bowl there, to which Lawrence then clapped back at Parsons, where he doubled down, said he told the truth, and took one extra jab saying if Parsons spent less time talking on Twitter and more time winning, maybe he wouldn't have left. And look, I mean, what else is there to say besides this is freaking hilarious? Like, Dallas is in shambles, we're Super Bowl champions, and I absolutely love it. And I also love what I heard from the Eagles' new offensive guard in Kenyon Green, as both he and backup QB Dorian Thompson Robinson were introduced by the Birds on Thursday with introductory press conferences, and what Green said about his play style as well as his readiness to work and help the team win is exactly what you want to hear from a new player.
I mean, I'm ready to work. I'm a team player, so I'm do whatever it takes to make sure the team is, trying to win games. I'm just extremely excited and blessed, to be here. So, I'm very grateful. I like just, trying to be a mauler, just moving people, and wherever that goes with, I'm playing this season or wherever I need to play. I'm gonna do whatever I need to do, to make sure that, the Eagles we're winning games.
Now look, Green was obviously very disappointing with the Texans, and we don't know what his role is going to look like next year, but him saying things like that at least makes a good first impression. Meanwhile, former Packers running back A.J. Dillon was introduced today, and with the main concern regarding him obviously being his recent neck injury, naturally a lot of the questions asked were about that, and the good news is that it sounds like Dillon is about as healthy as he can possibly be as he gets set to start his Eagles career.
For sure, well thank you, I appreciate the warm welcome, excited to be here. And, we've met with specialists from the East Coast, West Coast, everywhere. We're good to go, got the green light, so I'm excited to get here, play ball, and continue to be a part of what's been some dominance in Philly.
While this doesn't necessarily mean that the move is going to pan out, it's at least good to hear that Dillon is healthy and 100% ready to go, as he's going to look to revive his career this year in Philly. Plus, he also expressed a ton of excitement to get to play for the Eagles alongside Saquon Barkley and to run behind the Eagles' vaunted offensive line. So again, it was definitely a good first impression for Dillon. And there will be many more first impressions to come, as well as more free agency signings, possible trades, and just a bunch of other news coming throughout this entire Eagles offseason. So if you guys don't want to miss any of it, then make sure you subscribe and you have notifications turned on so you're notified instantly when I upload a video covering the news or I go live. Trust me, you are not going to want to miss any of it. And also, while you're at it, make sure you drop a like to show some support, because it really does help me out a ton. Let's see if we can get to 600 likes on today's video. And again, buy Raycon right now using my link. Again, I could not recommend them anymore. And also, leave a comment down below just regarding anything that I talked about in this video. And if you want to watch another video going more in-depth on the Joshua Uche and Adoree Jackson signings, among other things, you can check this out right here. And now with all that being said, that's pretty much all I got for this one, guys. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.